On the record this week, lawmakers return to the Georgia Capitol for the start of a new legislative session. Marjorie Taylor Greene officially leaves her seat in Congress, a crowded field of candidates now fighting to fill that void.
I fight against raising costs. I fight against raising taxes. I fight against regulation.
People are realizing that what Marjorie Taylor Greene was selling them is not working for Northwest Georgia.
And Congressman Mike Collins' is office accused of misusing funds this Sunday, what it could mean for his political future.
Now, from Atlanta News First, the issues that matter to you. This is On the Record.
And right now on the record, we know what the legislature's priorities will be this year as lawmakers from across Georgia head back to Atlanta this week. They will be back at the Capitol for the start of the new legislative session tomorrow. Good Sunday morning. I'm Doug Reardon. Lawmakers are expected to hit the ground running when they get back to business under the Gold Dome soon. House Speaker John Burns laying out his priorities for the new legislative session last week. The Republican leader wants to put education first this year with a push to increase literacy rates. Right now, 1 in 3 Georgia students are not proficient readers by 3rd grade. Burns also wants to bolster the state's healthcare workforce by expanding residencies and opening more medical schools. The speaker also believes lawmakers need to drastically reduce property taxes.
Property tax valuations have gone up dramatically. I don't think any of us in Georgia should ever face the possibility of losing that home because we can't afford to pay rent to the government. And that's where we are right now.
And the effort in the House to tamp down property taxes could create a budget battle with leaders over in the Senate. GOP leaders in that chamber want to eliminate the state's income tax. Senator Blake Tillery promises the plan that would cut the tax down to 0 by 2032 won't increase the sales tax, grocery tax, or the gas tax. Democrats in the Senate argue the state should stick to slower tax cuts that are already on the books.
You've got families who are having a hard time paying for gas, groceries, and power. And you've got corporations that have been able to do just fine.
I hope this is not a moment in time where the Democrats are going to sit here and want to shout affordability in your TV commercials, but today we're going to vote against something that helps blue-collar, middle-class families that are seeking relief.
Let's continue on the mode we're using. Let's go forward the way we've been doing until we get to where we want to be incrementally as opposed to that one big step.
And this year, lawmakers also plan to revive a few bills from last session, including one that would ban cell phones in every Georgia high school, as well as a bill that would allow for the use of automated detection cameras to reduce speeding in school zones. All right, we're welcoming in our panel now. Joining us is Andrew Heaton, Director of Campaign and Field Services for the Georgia House Democratic Caucus, and Heath Garrett, Republican Strategist with Strategic Partners in Media. We appreciate you being here with us. Let's talk taxes first, Heath, because the Senate has been very clear. Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones has been very clear, who leads that chamber, that they want to get rid of the state income tax. Do you think that the budget can absorb the hit of maybe losing one of its largest revenue streams? Is this a win for Republicans to push this?
Well, there's no doubt. Look, we as Republicans are always for lower taxes. There's an opportunity in the state to lower our income taxes and lower our property taxes. I will say that the Senate document looks a little bit like it's a political document because it doesn't really answer the questions. It says it's eliminating the income tax, but you got to get the numbers there. And I always believe the voters are really smart. So to me, it looks like the Senate's plan is based on political calculations. There are 5 or 6 of them running for statewide office. But we as Republicans have to be smart. We've got a general election in November. And so, yes, we can lower the taxes, but I think that we've got to do a better job of getting the math right and talk about lowering income taxes. Don't make a false promise that we can't keep.
Right, and we already have a gradual lowering in place that's been in place for years.
That's exactly right.
And could this set up a battle with the House? Because Speaker Burns was also very clear that he wants to lower property taxes that fund a lot of local programs. And we're talking about now local budgets when we discuss property taxes. And so can these two things exist in the same Capitol?
No, that's exactly right. I mean, first of all, I do think that Speaker Burns, right, going into this political year, is probably the most important figure in the legislature. And he's going to set the agenda. It sure seems to me that his property tax relief, they've gone and done their homework. Number one, it's politically more popular with the Republican primary and the general election than the income tax is. And more importantly, they've gone about saying they're going to do it in a fiscally responsible way. Now, I do think there's a way to lower both the income tax, get it down to 2.5%, and cap or lower property taxes. But we as Republicans have to remember one thing. We're supposed to be the fiscally responsible conservative party. And I think Speaker Burns, I'd put my money on his plan. Probably nothing happens, right, between the Senate and the House this year at the end of the day. But I would look at that property tax relief plan as probably more substantive and policy driven, not just political.
And we know Burns is very effective at getting the things done that he wants to. So thank you for that. Let's talk literacy now, because that was, he said, his #1 priority by far. Of course, his wife is a former educator, and so no surprise there. But, you know, when we talk about literacy, we know that that's a problem in Georgia. And Andrew, is this maybe something that Republicans and Democrats can finally agree on, and we may actually see some bipartisanship on this issue?
I think absolutely there's an opportunity for that. And I think you only have to look a few years ago in 2023 when both the House and the Senate passed bills that eventually set up the Council on Literacy, as well as passed the Georgia Early Literacy Act. Both of those bills had bipartisan sponsorship, and both those bills passed overwhelmingly with bipartisan votes. So literacy, early childhood education are both areas where absolutely there's an opportunity for bipartisan work.
Yeah, we're going to be back tomorrow at the Capitol. 2025 was a great year for Democrats. We look at the PSC election. We look at some of the House seats that were stolen, like the one in Athens. Because you're on the campaign side, do Democrats now go into this session, obviously still in the minority, but with a little more power behind them?
Absolutely, I think. And it's going to be interesting because we have seen some momentum. We saw some shifting in 25. We picked up that House seat that shocked everybody. And there are definitely a lot of seats that the caucus is eyeing, that the state party is eyeing. And I think it's going to be interesting how that plays out for the legislation that both the governor's office advances as well as Speaker Burns advances in the House. And it's going to be interesting to see how that they play, wanting to advance some of these political goals, as many of these folks are running for statewide office and for other office, but not wanting to go so far that they put some of these seats in jeopardy.
Yeah, all right.
And I want to jump in real quick. Republicans have lost 6 statewide races in the last 3 election cycles. If we're not paying attention, they're going to have a good year. Yeah, and we know that, of course, that federal House seat is up for grabs soon, too. And I think that same rule applies there. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back ahead on the record. President Donald Trump wants Fulton County to hand over millions of dollars after the criminal case against him was tossed out. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, just mentioned her, is officially out of office. That race to fill her seat now less than 2 months away. On the record right now, Marjorie Taylor Greene's time in Congress has officially come to an end. The Rome Republican who represented Georgia's 14th district for 5 years announced her resignation in November after a bitter feud with her once close ally, President Donald Trump. Her seat in the U.S. House is now sitting empty, but it won't stay that way for long. A special election to fill the District 14 seat is now set for March 10th. Crowded field of candidates is already jumping in that race, including State Senator Colton Moore. The Republican made headlines a year ago when he was arrested at the state capitol. Officers took Moore into custody when he tried to enter the U.S. House chambers, despite having been banned by Speaker John Burns. Senator Moore told us his arrest is one of his proudest moments. He believes it illustrates just how hard he'll fight to ensure the people of Northwest Georgia are represented. Our Rick Folbaum asked Moore about that moment and about his bid for that seat in Congress when they sat down on the record.
Tell me, why do you want to represent Georgia's 14th congressional district in the U.S. House of Representatives?
Well, I tell you, Northwest Georgia is one of the most conservative places in the country, and it deserves a representative who's willing to fight for those conservative values.
So if you were to meet a voter here in the district, what's your elevator pitch?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, affordability. The 2 most expensive places in Northwest Georgia right now are the gas station and the grocery store. It shouldn't take half of your paycheck to put a little ground beef in your spaghetti at night and fill up the minivan and put some fuel in your pickup truck.
How would you work as a member of Congress to get those prices to come down?
I mean, obviously we have to bring our energy from the U.S. Fracking, we have to think about all the federal grounds that we have out in the world. I think close to 1/3 of the United States is still owned by the federal government. I mean, that land needs to be freed up. There's resources there. Think about the lumber and stuff that comes from there. Not only the mineral rights to get the energy, but also the wood to build houses with. That's going to lower the cost, the input cost to build a house. Affordable housing is a big problem. I mean, when we're talking about 50-year mortgages as a solution, that's a big problem.
How can you promise to be an effective legislator in Washington, D.C., where governing really relies on building coalitions?
A lot of people say, oh, you're not effective. Well, I say effective at what? Raising costs, raising taxes, increasing regulation? Because if that's what it takes to be effective, then no, I'm not effective. Because I fight against raising costs, I fight against raising taxes, I fight against regulations. And ultimately, it depends on how someone defines effective.
In North Georgia, we saw the terrible shooting at Appalachia High School in Bartow County. What would the proper response be to that in your mind?
I wish more teachers had schools, or teachers had weapons, guns in schools. I wish there were more retired police officers who had the ability to volunteer. Taking guns away, outlaws are always going to have guns. So don't restrict law-abiding citizens from having access to weapons to defend themselves against the outlaws.
Voters of Georgia 14 are sending a representative to work on their behalf, of course. Your opponents will be reminding voters of your arrest and your ban from the State House. Do you regret that episode?
No, I think probably one of my proudest moments in politics was being able to showcase the tyranny that exists at the Georgia State Capitol. It was not about me. It was about the people of Northwest Georgia making sure that they had representation. And it just so happened that they arrested me on behalf of the people of Northwest Georgia. So for me to stand for those people that I represent, I think that's something to be extremely proud of. And in this case, isn't over. I'm still out on bail. I could still end up in jail.
Now, that Northwest Georgia seat that is now up for grabs sits in a reliably red area, but one Democrat is making his second attempt at turning District 14 blue. Retired Army General Shawn Harris ran against Marjorie Taylor Greene back in 2024 and is now giving it another go. We asked him about his plans to flip the district.
You've been down this road before. In November of 2024, you lost to Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yes.
Not by a little.
By a lot.
By a lot.
Yeah.
30 points or so?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you plan on doing differently this time?
Well, I tell you, first of all, yes, we did get beat. And that's okay. But the reality of it is 135,000 people voted for me. That's the most a Democrat has ever received in this district. That also says, you know what? We are moving in the right direction. Marjorie has decided that she wants to quit on the people of Northwest Georgia. What we're doing is not that different. The difference is so many things has changed. The economy's not good. Healthcare is an issue. And people are realizing that what Marjorie Taylor Greene was selling them is not working for Northwest Georgia.
You need to get some people that were not on board with you last time. You need to get a lot of them to switch sides now and to sign up for Shawn Harris. What's your elevator pitch?
What I have been doing is doing what we call town halls in every county. We invite everybody out. People are coming, and when I say people are coming, it's not just Democrats. It's also independents. We actually had Ronald Reagan Republicans in there asking questions, and their main question was talking about economics. What can we do to bring down the cost of living? What can we do to bring down healthcare costs? It's one thing to talk about a whole bunch of issues, but at the end of the day, if it has no effect on you and your family when it comes to your kitchen table issues, it's worth nothing.
As a retired brigadier general and a cattle farmer today, how do those roles allow you to represent Northwest Georgia and the values of the people of Northwest Georgia?
We have 40,000+ veterans that live in our district. But in addition to that, the #1 industry in the great state of Georgia is agriculture. My leadership from the military and what I'm doing today makes me very unique to be the leader that represents the people from Northwest Georgia, because guess what? When you invest the type money that you invest into a cattle farm, you're never leaving.
Where are you on the Second Amendment?
100%. Shawn Harris, I carry. I want people to be responsible gun owners. That means lock your weapon up. Shawn Harris is not coming to take anybody's weapon.
You've talked about paving every secondary road, expanding broadband access.
Most definitely.
How do you plan to secure federal funding for those priorities and others that will help the people of Georgia 14?
One of the reasons why I'm really pushing for broadband, and I'm going to put it into policies that we're going to get passed in D.C., is because so many of our citizens actually go to line or try to work online, but because we don't actually have very good broadband in our district, you will see people sitting outside of McDonald's. We shouldn't get left behind because we choose or our zip code is in a rural community. When I get to DC, on day one, you'll see me, as soon as I finish raising my hand, saying, okay, somebody get in here, show me where we at by county with broadband. And then from there, we will start holding people accountable.
And you can see Rick's full interviews with both Shawn Harris and State Senator Colton Moore right now. Scan that QR code to download the free Atlanta News First app and to watch those right now and get up-to-the-minute notifications from the campaign trail sent straight to your phone. Still ahead, Congressman Mike Collins wants to kick Jon Ossoff out of the U.S. Senate, but an ethics investigation could mean problems for his political future. On the record right now, President Donald Trump wants Fulton County's district attorney to hand over more than $6 million. The president just sued the county under a Georgia law that allows criminal defendants to recover expenses when prosecuting attorneys are dismissed from their cases. Last fall, Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis was disqualified from prosecuting the president and some of his allies on criminal charges, alleging they tried to overturn the results of the 2020 election here in Georgia. I asked President Trump's attorney about the financial toll this suit and the ones that may be filed by other defendants in this case could have on the Fulton County taxpayers.
The taxpayers are getting hit hard, but that's Fonnie Willis's fault. That's not our fault. No one should have to spend their life savings. I'm not talking about President Trump. I'm talking about other defendants. The defendants other than President Trump have been assailed as criminals for the last 3 years, and this is their way to seek reimbursement and to regain their reputations, and they deserve it, and they need to have it back.
That criminal case against the president was officially tossed out in November. A Fulton County leader is now fighting to become Georgia's next elections chief. County Commissioner Dana Barrett just entered the race for Secretary of State. The Democrat has served on the county commission since 2023. She beat out a longtime Republican incumbent to win her seat. Barrett now joins more than half a dozen other candidates in the running to succeed Republican Brad Raffensperger, who is now running for governor. And one of the top contenders in Georgia's nationally watched Senate race is now at the center of an ethics investigation. The Office of Congressional Conduct says that there's reason to believe the former chief of staff for U.S. Representative Mike Collins hired his girlfriend as an intern and that she didn't perform proper work. Brandon Phillips now works for Collins' U.S. Senate campaign. But records show that the woman was paid more than $10,000, although witnesses report they never saw her in the office to work. Collins' office is now calling the probe a bogus attempt to derail his campaign. Back with our panel now, and Heath, for a Republican that's facing a very popular incumbent in Jon Ossoff, how big of a deal is this investigation for Collins' campaign?
Look, it's a big deal, no matter how you do it. Look, this is a story as old as Adam and Eve, right? If your girlfriend's involved, you can't put them on the payroll. So the big question is, how much of a deal do both Mike Collins' opponents in the primary make it, and then Jon Ossoff? And when we're this close, Georgia is really 48 Republican, 47 Democrat every day of the week, in my opinion. And so every little thing matters. I think this matters in the Republican primary too, because self-righteous hypocrisy is the problem in Republican politics. And so, yes, it's not the congressman himself, but they need to deal with it, and they're not going to be able to just run away from it, because it's a real problem.
Yeah, and especially since we've seen polling that puts Collins kind of at the top of that Republican pack.
That's right.
And when we talk about Ossoff, like we said, he's popular, he's got a big war chest, he's an incumbent. But the Democrats still have a reason to be worried here, because a lot of people view this as one of the more flippable seats in 2026 when it comes to the Senate.
Yeah. Well, if you talk to his team, I don't know if they'd use the word worried, but they're definitely, they understand what's at stake, and they understand what this race is going to be. And the reality is, I think I just saw in a fundraiser email they sent out the other day, they said Georgia is still a red state. And you look at the results of 22, You look at 24, there are still plenty of indications that statewide is a fight for Democrats to win statewide. Now, obviously in 2025, as you alluded to, we had some great results statewide, but this is still going to be a slugfest for Ossoff, even though he does come in extremely strong, extremely popular, has a great war chest, is going to have the national backing. But the reality is, if you look at 22, Warnock was the only exception statewide for Democrats, and unfortunately, right now, none of the leading Republican contenders look like Herschel Walker. Though, to be fair, I don't know if we've talked to Derek Dooley about his opinion on vampires and werewolves, so I don't know for sure.
I don't know if we will, but yeah. Well, we appreciate you guys, and that is our show for the week. Thanks to our guests, Andrew Heaton and Heath Garrett, as always, for joining us, and thank you, as always, for watching. We'll see you next Sunday.